Tell us about these cars. These are not just a dream. These aren't sort of in the lab. They're actually becoming a reality.
This technology is making the transition more rapidly than the researchers behind it thought it would, from lab test to reality. There's still a number of years to go. We're not there yet, but the technology barriers appear to be falling reasonably fast. The real question is whether the cultural and barriers will fall.
Meaning whether we as consumers will accept this. Let's just back up a little bit, because people are saying, how's this really going to work? Is the car going to take my key fob? What's going to actually happen? How would a car know if we were intoxicated beyond a legal level for driving?
There are two technologies that are being researched now by the federal government, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, promised last time I say that, and the Auto Alliance, which is the auto industry's lobbying group in Washington. The first technology basically is a booze sniffer. It would use technology that's developed in part for Homeland Security. You get in the car, you've had 5 drinks, and it would test the atmosphere in the car and realize that you, the driver, are drunk.
Your car's like you're sniffing you, literally.
Sniffer. It's a sniffer, right.
Wow.
Wow. Second way to go,
sounds kinky, Joe. I don't know.
Which might be a little less weird, is essentially a touch sensor that could be, for instance, built into the shifter, could be built into the steering wheel, could be built into the starter button, and it uses, as I understand it, technology that's adapted from the technology that you see in hospitals, where they put a clip on your finger to measure glucose or other factors. Apparently, this can also measure how much you've had to drink, and so here are the keys. It has to be able to last for 20 years in a car. It has to work flawlessly, because nobody wants a false positive, and it has to work really quickly, because one researcher was telling me 325 milliseconds, or a third of a second. I don't quite know how to. It's a little slower than that, but it's a lot faster than this.
Yes.
Because nobody's going to accept that. A long wait.
And the thing you were talking about, where you'd put your finger in, obviously they wouldn't be pricking you and taking it.
No.
It's basically like the sensors in the hospital you were describing.
Yeah, I think the term of art is transdermal.
Okay.
And I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. But it would basically, as you touch the starter, as you touch the starter button, the system would measure it.
So there's a lot of, there's so many ifs and buts and what ifs here. Let's just take a very simple question on the other side: personal choice, freedom. The people who are critics of this, what are you hearing from them?
Well, I think go back. Well, if anyone who remembers the 1970s and the attempts by the auto industry to put the seatbelt interlock will remember that this was a fiasco, because it totally invaded people's sense of who's in charge when they're in the car. They want to be in charge. So you come to this, and clearly everybody in the industry who's working on this remembers that scenario. That's number one. Number two. Among the most vocal critics of this at this stage is the restaurant industry, and their concern is, look, in order to get this to work flawlessly from the point of view of never letting anyone drive who's over the .08 limit, they're concerned that it would have to be calibrated. So let's say I went into a bar and I put 4 drinks down in a relatively, when I got into my car, I might not be at .08, but soon afterwards, as my body processes that last shot, I might be .08.
So they're worried they'd have to take it down.
They're worried that there would be a tougher, it would actually be a tougher standard. Look, they're also worried that this cuts into profits. If anyone who's bought a glass of wine at a restaurant knows it's a profit center. So their concern is, look, nobody wants people dying on the highway because of drunk drivers. But on the other hand, do we want to curtail people's enjoyment of life, people's enjoyment of being able to go out, have a drink with dinner, and then come back in? And that's what I mean by the cultural aspects of this. Because look, the United States has a more tolerant attitude toward drinking and driving than a lot of countries in Europe, like Belgium and Germany, where people drink beer in great quantities. They just don't drive.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point. I also wonder too. It just seems like you could circumvent this a lot. You get in, you have somebody else push the button for you, you drive. There seems like so many ways around it, and people would maybe try and disable these systems. Then at the end of the day, would they really even be doing any good for the people who you need to be policing at all?
Right. This is why there's more research to be done. The human factors aspect of this. What you said. How can you get a touch system that could not be defeated by someone who's malicious enough to do what you just said? If you had the breath system, how could you make sure that if I was the designated driver and I had 3 drunk friends, that the car would let me drive them home rather than measuring the 3 drunk friends?
Right.
These are all. So this is stuff that has to be worked out. This is not going to be in your car tomorrow. But again, what's interesting to me is that it looks like the technology is making that leap now to something where they can put into a prototype form on the road. And the highway bill in Congress, which is stalled for other reasons, has a bunch of money that's been proposed to try to speed up the development of this, put 100 or more cars on the road with this technology to test it out.